The January transfer window was always going to throw up one of these. Two departures and one arrival for Mansfield Town on this Friday, the day before match day. One shock, one expected, and one we sort of half knew about. We're here for the next half an hour or so to talk about our Friday business deals, as the club secretary has had to fire up the fax machine because it's transfer time. In comes Kieran Wallace, linking up with Nigel Clough for a third time. And out go Corey O'Keefe, to be expected, and the unexpected departure of Harry Charlesley. Let us know your thoughts on the transfer business in the comments and have your say on your team. This is the Mansfield Matters podcast, the show for the fans, by the fans. A Friday night transfer special as we go into extra time and fire up the fax machine because it's transfer time. Good evening and welcome to the show for the fans, by the fans. You thought that you'd had your Mansfield Matters fill for this week. How wrong you were, because we fired up the fax machine today, got rid of two and brought in one. Joining me to discuss a frantic Friday-ish of transfer deals, we've got Mr. Alan Wilson. Good evening.
Good evening, Craig. Good evening, everybody.
We've got the Edwin Snow Stag, Mr. Parkin Clive. Good evening.
Hello, everybody.
And the man who we've come to know and love, who still hasn't sorted his backdrop out 2 years after sorting his room out. It's Nathan Edge. Oh, dear. We've made more signings and departures than in the time in these last few months and years. And yet you still haven't signed anything to put on your wall. It's looking very, very bleak. Even Mr. Wilson, who's new to the party, has managed to get himself a backdrop, even though it is his living room. You need to get yourself in the transfer market, mate. Yeah. Yeah, well, we're waiting eagerly. Well, there's been a busy day of news Mansfield Town-wise today, gents, with two outgoings and one incoming. We're going to talk about them over the next sort of 15, 20 minutes or so. We won't be here for too long, but feel free to get involved in the chat as always and have your say on today's business. Let's sort of give you the headlines to start off with. Out go Harry Charlesley to Port Vale and Corey O'Keefe to Rochdale, and in comes Kieran Wallace from Burton Albion. We'll dive into the three of them individually. And I think we should probably start by sort of trying to sum up in the today's transfer dealings, Mr. Wilson. For me, it's a surprise, an expected one, and one which we sort of half saw coming. What about you? How would you sum up today's transfer dealing?
Yes, I first saw the Harry Charlesley one. I was very surprised, and surprised in the place he'd gone to as well. That was, most surprising. But then I saw Corey O'Keefe after that, and I wasn't surprised that he'd gone back to Rochdale, because I knew they were, it were virtually nailed on, that was. And then the third one, there was obviously Kieran Wallace. It was just about his knee swelling up, weren't it? And if he's not, if that's going to sort itself out, which it seems to have done at the moment, it could be a good signing. But I was surprised when it said he can play at centre half. I knew midfield and I knew left back, but I was surprised at the centre half bit.
We'll delve into each individual one shortly, Clive. But in summary, what do you make of today's transfer business, where the fax machine has been earning its keep for another year?
I'm not quite so surprised about Charlesley as you two are. I think it was inevitable he would have left at the end of the season anyway. I think there is a reshaping taking place, and he was always likely to be on the fringe of it. And I don't know why he's surprised he's gone to Port Vale, and Port Vale have got a few quid to spend, and obviously they've given him a decent wage. What does surprise me is O'Keefe's gone on a free, because from what I understood, he had such a good time earlier in the season at Rochdale that they desperately wanted to sign him on full-time terms. Well, why no fee? Again, I can only imagine it's books balancing in Mansfield again. We've taken him off the payroll, and a player that wasn't going to figure. So there's sense in that, and he's obviously well known at Scotland, just like JJ was well known here, and it made it an easy decision for us. But in our case, we had to find a dollop of money, I guess.
I'm not sure. I don't know whether it was a free. Was it? Has it been confirmed as a free, or is it just not said?
The BBC call it a free, and if you go on the
Okay.
Stags net, it says free.
Fair play. Fair play.
And the other thing was this Kieran Wallace. I mean, I can only imagine he's there for cover. He's got no this season. He's got no real match time, and he's not really appeared anywhere of significance. I mean, he's known, and obviously it's good that the management team know him well enough to take him on board. But I don't see him getting much game time, in all fairness. And he's only signed till the end of the season, so it's a bit of a cautious thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we'll come on to that more later, but I think it's probably due to the knee swelling up. Maybe had his knee not flagged up a couple of weeks ago, we might have seen him get until the end of next season, like pretty much everyone else says. Let's dive into them one by one, Nate. We'll put Corey O'Keefe in the middle because I think that will be a very short discussion. And we'll start with the outgoing, Harry Charlesley. I have to say I'm disappointed in his departure, but like Clive, I'm not that surprised. And when you look at it on paper, it does actually make sense. It's an undisclosed fee, which means sod all, because it could just be 1 penny, but we have got a little bit in for him and we didn't pay anything for him. But I'm disappointed because he's a good utility player to have around the club. He comes off the bench, he always gives 110%. And I don't know, I think there was more to come from him. What was your take on the news of Charlesley's departure to Port Vale? A few comments coming in saying that we can't hear you, Nathan, even though I can. I'm not quite sure why that is. Maybe you just drop out. Maybe just drop out and drop back in again, and then that might solve it. But in a nutshell, Nathan was just saying there that it's one of them with Charlesley being sort of on the fringes. He might have wanted first team football, and looking, his Stags spell. Alan, he signed on a free after what he's released from Everton, and did relatively well for us, obviously towards the back end of the pandemic season, and things like that as well. But this year, 13 starts, 7 sub appearances, 2 goals. I think Nathan could be on something, Alan. I think it pretty much will be him at his age wanting first team football. And to be fair to the lad, you know, as much as we rate his ability and his work ethic, he's probably not in the top 5 of choice for in terms of ranking midfielders.
Yeah, you can't, like Nathan said, and Clive to a certain extent, you can't blame the lad for going. It was just a surprise. I hadn't heard any sniffings of, and Nigel said, there'd be some goings out, some loany, like your Sinclair, your Keaton Ward, all that sort of stuff. We expected that, but it was just a shock, that was all. I haven't got a problem with him going, because fair play to the lad. I hope he does well, because I really liked Harry Charsley. It was just a surprise.
I don't think scoring 2 goals from the bench did him any harm.
No, possibly not.
That brought his name to the fore, and he's a reliable player. I think it's a shame we can't keep him, but you can have an abundance of riches, and I think that what has to happen at our level is keeping it all tight, and that's why trimming around the edges at this point is vital. And if somebody comes in with a sensible offer, and I would imagine it might be 6 figures, I think it might be 100 grand or something. I don't know. It's difficult to know what gets paid out now, isn't it? Because nobody tells anybody anything.
Nathan, after Ollie Palmer.
Well, that is very, very true. Anything could happen if you pay 300k for him. Jesus Christ, anything could happen. Nathan, I know you have a bit of a gripe with the undisclosed fee thing, don't you? Let's see whether we can hear you on this one.
Ollie Palmer, it's a couple of million in the.
Nathan, you're going to have to start paying your broadband bill.
So if you can't, well, but yeah, I mean, undisclosed fee, it can actually be 0. Is it playing up again? I do, guys. But no, obviously it can technically be 0.
I've just had it on.
It does. You can hear me now,
I've just had you on. I've just had you on, and it was playing through my phone. So carry on.
Yeah, but yeah, undisclosed fee. I get why I do it to a certain extent, but I think there should be a rule in football where it doesn't apply. It shouldn't be allowed. It winds me up. It's hard, isn't it, from us as supporters as well? I know it doesn't really matter too much, but it's hard for us to really say whether it's a good deal for us, is it? Because yes, we've got an undisclosed fee, which should mean some sort of fee, and we did get him on a free, so you'd like to think, well, it's something more than what we had before. But it's hard to really judge it when you don't know how much it actually is.
Yeah, that is very, very true. Let's delve into some of your comments. Keep them coming in tonight. Nick has been in touch and says, evening, gents. With the midfield we have, I wouldn't have been surprised to see Charsley released. So to get a fee for him is good business. We never saw the best of O'Keefe or much of him at all, so really can't judge that one. Stags Chat says, welcome, Kieran. Very surprised about Charsley, but good luck to him at Vale. Clough knows what he's doing. Jim says, Charsley was useful, but I was never struck on his final product. We wish him well, though. Do the panel think we will see any more movement in or out? Well, let's touch upon that one first before we come to Richard's comment. I think we probably will see a little bit of more movement in and out, Clive. I think we'll potentially see one more in. And I think we'll probably see 2 out. And I think the 2 out will be younger players going to get loan experience, possibly James Gale, maybe Jason Law, especially when you look at the positions in which the players we've brought in can play. Akins, who we brought in last week, can play anywhere. Wallace can play anywhere. O'Toole can play defence and midfield. So I think Clough will probably look to get those 2 out of the door to get them some football.
Yeah, so do you think there might be a room for another striker? Or somebody who's got pace down the left to cover that? I don't know. I'm happy with the squad as it is, if I'm being honest.
It's an interesting one because we've been saying for weeks that really the area that we need to cover is the left-hand side. And Wallace, they can play down the left-hand side and has played there previously under Clough.
Yeah, personally, I think Wallace is a bit like Clive said. I mean, he's been at York full of appearances there, so 2 divisions below us. So if he's recovering from an ACL injury, we don't really know what level he's going to be at. I know they say he's fit, but whether he's going to be, ability is going to still be there. We've got to wait and see, haven't we? So he's going to be more competition and cover for places. So it's a difficult one. additions wise, well, I think we're good up top. I think we're good in midfield. I don't know, centre back for I still got question marks over Rawson at times. So sorry, Clive, don't get mad, don't hurt me. But yeah, sometimes I do think maybe just one more defender back there. But that's probably just being overcautious. We probably are good.
What about you, Alan? What's your thoughts on it? I know you've got a little rumour on the rumour mill.
Yeah, I think there'll be another one coming in, and I agree with you. And to put with Paul Beestall, what you said in the comments about Burke, he could possibly go out on loan.
I thought he already had. I might be wrong. I thought Burke had gone out.
Oh, I don't know. I hadn't heard that one, Craig. I don't know whether he has or not. But if he hasn't, he could be a possibility of him going. But I know I spoke on the last one about, he hadn't come to the fore, if you like. But I do feel a bit sorry for him because the way Macca's playing, nobody, Stuart Pearce wouldn't douse Macca at the moment, would he? Because he's playing out his skin.
That's very, very true. That's very, very true. I can't find any news on Burke going out, but
I haven't heard about Burke going, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not up with these internet jobs.
So there's a bit of a rumour that there's going to be another incoming player. Where do you think that player is likely to fit in the squad?
I'm not sure, Clive, but it was on Facebook. I'm not saying, it was on Facebook, it's got to be true, but the person it came from, I know very well. And he said, if it comes off, it will be good. Because it got him excited.
I would probably imagine it's a striker, because I think that's the only really area where I personally think we're a little bit short. Roadrunner, Reece Oates
I think that would be the excitement bit.
Yeah.
Well, Clough has spoken about cover for the two strikers, just to give them a relief occasionally. And of course, one of our strikers is really on full-time defensive duties at the moment. Now, whether that's going to change with the recent acquisitions, difficult to see.
He's also on the edge of a 2-game ban as well, which you will probably pick
talking
up
of bans. I'm banned by Facebook for 2 days, so you'll see very little of my acid comments on there at the moment.
Naughty. But yeah, I don't know. I think going back to bringing one in, like you say, I think possibly a striker, someone who has scored a fair amount of goals. I don't think it would be a striker who's maybe got 6 or 7 a season. I think it'll be someone who has regularly hit double figures, and I think that'll be the excitement factor for me. But we've not got long to go though, Nath, have we? And for once this time around, I don't think we're in the position whereby we're going to be panicking on the last day and sort of signing players on loan who we've barely heard of and who come with a little bit of suspect record, so shall we say?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling a lot better than I was this time last year. That's for sure. If anything ended as it was now, I'd be happy with our January transfer dealing. So, I'll say pretty happy. I'll be more than that. I think it's been a really successful one. So it'll be good as long as I think for me now the key thing is if we can keep all of our main players. I don't want to lose anybody like Reece Oates or I know Lapsley's not really been involved that much this season to his usual levels, but he'll probably be a player that would still be sought after because of his reputation that
he has. Don't forget as well. Sorry, Lapsley's got a contract as well, which takes him into next season. So that sort of rivets his value on the transfer market if anybody comes for him. Whereas Charles,
they're the players I'd want to keep hold of. I don't want to lose any of those.
You shouldn't write Lapsley off, but he's not had the season this year that he had last year. And I know the injury came and damaged him to a certain extent. But we're looking for more from the lad, and we've not seen it this season.
Richard says, do you guys think that with Perch potentially coming back soon, that Clough is thinking about moving O'Toole into midfield and having Perch as a centre-back, so Charsley may have been considered surplus to requirements? I think there's a lot of logic in that, Alan, to be fair, because he's desperate to get James Perch back. He will be disappointed, like we said, on Monday or Tuesday when we spoke, that the game on Wednesday was off against Wigan under-23s in the under-23s Cup or whatever it was. But he'll certainly be looking for that. O'Toole, when he was sort of weighing up his contract options, was saying I'd rather play in midfield, and that's where I see myself. So But honestly, I actually think with the way Mansfield Town are at the minute, that we're not looking to put people in boxes of centre back, right back, centre mid, whatever. We are a very fluid side, and that in the way we play, it can be described as a good thing, because we could name 4 or 5 players on our team sheet tomorrow, and I would have no idea how we're lining up, and I've watched them all season.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Craig. And I think it's nice when you've got players that can play in, quite a number of positions. I fully expect personally that Hawkins will drop to centre back tomorrow and he might play Aitkins up front. But who knows? It's Nigel has these different plans. He could put Lapsley in as well. Ollie Clark might be fit. It'll be interesting just before or just after 2:00 when he puts the team sheet in front of us, and who actually gets the nod for the first 11. But I'm fully expecting to see Perch on the bench.
With that fluid, I've heard that Nathan Bishop's been practicing his free kicks, so we'll wait and see what happens for the remainder of the season. Yeah. Let's move on, because we said we're only going to be here for 20 minutes, and that was 25 minutes ago. So let's push on. We've all got busy lives and everything, but it's great to see you guys interacting with us and everything. Nick says, slightly off topic, but really like the scarf Wallace is holding. Does anybody know if they're available at the club shop? No idea. If they are, though, I wouldn't mind one either. Stags Chat says we've got a lot of players that play everywhere, so where do you cover in new players? Jamie says, any news on Forresty? I think Stoke City have pretty much shut the door on that one, but even if we were to bring him in now, I don't think we would. Again, with Wallace coming in today, I think that probably shuts the door on both Forrester and potentially sees a move back to Burnley for Richard Narty as well, because obviously Wallace can play centre back, can play left side, full back, can play midfield as well. We've got so many options there as well. Malcolm says Dominic Telford would be great. Ashley says so many options, which is nice to have. And Chris, continuing the joke from midweek, says, I'm off to the pub 4-1. Remember, you saw it here first. Have a good one. It doesn't count if you don't do it via the link. Any truth we've had 25 bids for the scoreboard? No. Jack says that it must be difficult for the other teams to try and counter how we play when many of our players can play in so many positions. Excellent point, and that's what makes us so I think difficult to come up against and scout at the minute, because you can come and watch us. The prime example is, we can come and watch us play 4-4-2 Diamond one week, Clive, but then, 2 days later we'll be playing 3-4-3.
And I think that's tremendous news, because when we were desperate for staff earlier in the season, for all those reasons we don't need to go into, Clough was very much locked into a fairly rigid approach to formation, and to a certain extent we were a bit critical at the time. I'm not going to be as critical anymore, because he obviously knows more about the game than I do. But the fact that we've got such versatility in a fair number of players means he can do pretty much what he wants on formation. And what should really drive it is intelligence on the opposition.
Yeah, I think that's a key thing, because, 1 week we might need Ollie Hawkins to sort of play at the back, but and like we sort of did against Barrow last weekend, we need him to play up top to sort of allow Rhys Oates to push on a little bit more, and that's what gives us the fluidity. Let's move on to Corey O'Keefe briefly. We'll have like 10 seconds from each of you on his departure, because all that needs to be said, and I think we'll all say it. He's joined Rochdale, as we say, after his loan spell. Didn't get a look in under Clough. Good luck to him. It's taken money off the books and allowed other players to come in and sort of free up room for other players, Nath.
Yeah, we've said it many times over the last, it seems like forever now, doesn't it? I think personally, I would love to have seen him get more of a go, but for whatever reason, it's not happened. And one of the comments from a Rochdale fan, I think it was on Twitter, actually made me laugh. He said, "How can you not want how can you not want O'Keefe? Who have you got right back, Cafu or something like that?" So they obviously highly rate him, to be fair.
Yeah.
Not seen Elliot Hewitt play, mate. Come on.
Well, I mean, that basically is a Cafu in disguise, isn't it? But no,
there are two individuals that have improved immensely this season. One is Elliot Hewitt, and the other is a scoreboard. And since the scoreboard's been signed on, we've been undefeated. In fact, we've had 100% win record.
I'm going to say that's incorrect, because we lost to Middlesbrough. But there you
go. In the league.
I
There you go. You've got to provide clarity.
Our luck's changed massively since Mr. Craig Priest started commentating. What's done it? Just putting it out there.
I mean, I don't want to say it again, but the last time I was sort of commentated and saw a season out, we did win the league. So just saying, sign me up. Let's move on to today's signing then. Mansfield Town are delighted to announce the signing of Kieran Wallace from Burton Albion on a free transfer. This is the club's official statement from earlier. The 27-year-old has signed a contract which runs until the end of the current season. He reunites with Stags boss Nigel Clough, under whom he played at Sheffield United and Burton Albion. After emerging through the Nottingham Forest academy, Wallace enjoyed a short spell with Ilkeston before he was snapped up by the Blades. He made 15 appearances for United under Clough before acquiring more game time on loan with Lincoln and Fleetwood. A versatile player who can be deployed in a number of positions, Wallace linked up with the manager again at Burton in 2019 following a stint at Matlock. He recently returned to the club after a loan spell with York. Manager Nigel Clough commented, Kieran will provide us with some good competition and cover in several positions, including midfield, left back and centre half. We've worked with him before and he performed very well for us in League One at Burton. He's fully fit now after an injury and will be a good addition to the squad. He's ready to hit the ground running now. Alan, there were a number of rumours about Wallace weeks and weeks ago whilst the O'Toole saga was ongoing. And of course, it didn't materialise. It later came out that he had a bit of an ankle swell up. So actually, with his injury record this season, I know he's just come back from an ACL and been getting fit out on loan at York. The club have done the right thing in giving a contract until the end of the season. There's no pressure on him to stay fit. He's there to utilise if he is fit, and he's there to earn a contract for himself. It's the perfect deal all round. And like we've sort of alluded to already, ticks a number of boxes in several positions, especially sort of at left back and centre half, where we like to shuffle the pack more times than a magician.
It's the perfect signing, really, and everything's in the lad's court, isn't it? If he can play well and prove to Nigel that he can perform, and he is fit and he can do 90 minutes like he says he can in his interview, what he did earlier on I Follow. Fair play to the lad, and hopefully, we can put him on for next season if he's, a decent prospect for what we need at this present time.
Obviously, the thing which a lot of fans are sort of talking about, Nath, is the fact that it's another ex-player that Nigel Clough has brought with him. Sort of seems to sign players who he's worked with before, but I think when it's worked and when it's paid off, I don't think there's any danger in that whatsoever.
Well, so far, you could say his ex-players have been our best players, haven't they, really? So if we want to become Burton's B team, well, whatever, as long as it gets us up out of this league, I don't really care. But I think another good point was, I think someone else made the comment somewhere that they said, when you look at it, he's bringing in players that he knows that he can trust, which is actually, when it comes to this end of the season, the business end, you want players that you can rely upon, especially if things get tough again. You want to know he wants to be able to put faith in those players who've got out there. So, there is other aspects to look at it than just the fact that he's bringing in players that he knows. He obviously brings them in for a reason, that he knows he can trust them and they'll fit in, personality wise.
Coming into a dressing room, Clive, as well, which it must be a weird one, because many teams at this time of year, when you bring players in, you're bringing players in to sort of help you stay up and sort of help you maintain your mid-table position. And sometimes it can be a bit of a fractious dressing room. But this time around, he's coming into a dressing room which is absolutely bouncing, and it's going to be really, really key for him to get to know the lads sort of early doors and integrate with them and really settle in, because the last thing we want is players coming in who don't settle.
Yeah, and I think we've seen players come into an unhappy dressing room and become quite unhappy themselves very quickly. There's none of that at the moment, and in fact, I would have thought that after one session on the training ground, he'll be one of the lads.
Caught me short there, finishing my Coke. Yeah, absolutely. How much of a factor do you think it is, Clive, that he will know a couple of the players as well? He'll know of certainly Stephen Quinn, John Joe O'Toole, who he'll have played with recently as well, Lucas Akins as well. I think that's a big selling point as well, isn't it? When you can come into a dressing room and you already know people, it's so much easier to work with people you've worked with before and you've already got a common ground and common relationships formed with.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, he'll already know what Bobby's favourite treats are as well. So he starts further ahead than another candidate might do.
So that's always a key thing, isn't it, Alan? Making sure that something's right for the dog.
Definitely. Well, that's the number one item, isn't it, on the agenda whenever he gets there at the training ground. Sort the dog out first, make sure the dog's sorted. Anybody that's on the reserves bench or the youngsters, take the dog a walk, bring him back, sort him, then we can get training and get it right on the pitch.
Final thing before we wrap up tonight, we initially intended this to be 15 minutes. We're now on 32 minutes, so we're doing quite well. The last thing I want to ask you all is about the remainder of the transfer window and your hopes and what you think will happen. Of course, transfer window will close on Monday night at about 11 o'clock before our home game. Away game at Harrogate on Tuesday. I'm getting so confused with the amount of games we've got coming up. I'm losing track. So what do you hope will happen and what do you think will happen? Alan, I'll start with you. What are you wanting to see now from the Stags?
Well, if there's one more
window.
Sorry, if there's one more exciting prospect to come in, that would be nice just to fill the gap of anywhere that needs filling. Personally, possibly maybe another striker, or like I've said in the previous podcast, somebody on the wide right who's got a bit of pace, like a CJ with a better end result on the right.
Will you stop, please, Al? Don't do it.
Now, somebody that's got a bit of pace on the right. And did you see where McLaughlin's about the third for the crosses in the league?
That's ridiculous. Yeah, what you got to say about that, Nathan?
Because he's a legend. He's a bloody legend, I tell you.
Just a bit of excitement to finish it off on a Monday before 11 o'clock. I'd be happy.
Yeah, I mean, the stats which Mansfield Town Football Club are boasting at the moment are fantastic. And if you think about it, they've only happened in the last 12 weeks. Because prior to that, they were rubbish. Every stat we had was rubbish.
Stats only go in your favour when you're getting the results. Let's move back to the transfer window question. Clive, what about you? What are you wanting to see between now and the window slamming shut?
I'm not fussed.
Easily pleased.
I'm happy where we are.
What makes you happy where we are? What about the dealings we've done makes you satisfied with what we've got?
We've had 3 magnificent signings, haven't we? If you think about it, and they're not totally signings because I'm going to include James Perch's early recovery as a magnificent acquisition. Akins clearly is a bit of class we can make great use of, and he's a presence. He's a big unit, and of course we worked really hard to hang on to JJ. So I think this transfer window, this January window, has done its job already. If anybody else comes in, I'm not going to show them the door. It's not my job. But I think I wouldn't feel that we need to panic anywhere and buy somebody in or get someone on loan just because they're available. We've done that before. It hasn't always worked, has it?
I'm going to play devil's advocate with Nathan for the last comment of the pod. What happens, or what do you think would happen if we lost one more? So Harry Charsley going today, we like we've mentioned at the top of the podcast, it's one of those where he probably wasn't going to get in anyway. But what if we did lose somebody in that in the top 3 bracket? There are certain players that we'd be disappointed to lose, and you can never say never whilst the window's still open.
I'll be writing, simple as that. No, I think I don't think. I said no. I'll say I don't think we'd sell, but there's always a price for a player. So, and I think we do business a bit better. We always used to complain, didn't we, then when we let players go on a free? So I'm not going to complain. Well, precisely to anybody, but especially to them. But if we're going to get offers and valued offers from clubs, then I know we don't want to be a selling club, but there's always a price for a player.
If somebody offered us $500,000 for greasy notes, it'd be very difficult to resist at our level.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Not at all. Because then how every week I won't be able to go meow.
I'm just saying, I haven't got the goal celebration running right yet. Anyway,
put them on transfer list.
You're right, though, Nathan. Every player's got a value and every player's got a price, and depending on how wealthy your club is how well you can resist some of these things.
Yeah, but I'm more with you, Clive. But I said earlier maybe centre back, and I completely forgot about Perch. So forget that. We're good in that department. If we get an exciting striker or like say winger, CJ bring him back on loan, I'm happy with that. But I'm happy either way.
There we go. That sums it up. That's our transfer dealings done. Well, not done. That's our transfer talk done for today, should I say. 2 go out, 1 comes in. But there's one more thing left to talk about.
McLaughlin is going to take this free kick. There's the whistle from the referee. Oates makes a run at the near post. Barry in the middle. O'Toole's up there. He's got Barry! Jordan Barry puts Mansfield 3-1 up with a forceful header. Sprints to the Stags fans and everybody jumps on him. Jordan Barry on 67 minutes makes it Barrow 1, Mansfield Town 3.
A reminder that if you want to play along with podcast predictions, the link is in the description. It's only the link where it counts. Earlier, of course, this week, we made the following predictions. Clive said we're going to win 2-1 tomorrow, and Rhys Oates and Lucas Akins is going to get on the score sheet. I said 1-0 win with Rhys Oates. Alan, you went for a 3-1 win with Oates, Bowery and Maris. Cam went for a 2-0 win with McLaughlin and Oates, and Nathan also went for a 2-0 win with Oates and Akins. All happy at your predictions?
Yes.
Yep.
I've probably undercooked it, but I'm sticking, obviously.
There you go. There you go. If you want to play along, there is still time to do so. Entries will close at what time, Nathan Edge?
1 minute, 1 hour and 1 second before the kickoff.
1 hour and 1 minute before kickoff.
No, I think 1 second,
And use the link.
Yeah, no, 1 hour, 1 minute, just in case it goes out early. We're not. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Exactly.
Make sure you take note of that, Clive.
Use the link.
What? Yes,
Use the link.
Yes, and absolutely use the link. Absolutely
You didn't get
use
that.
the link.
Use the link.
Make sure you use the link, people. If you want to get yourself on the coach to Harrogate, it's still time to do so. You can call 07967 689 597, 07967 689 597. And prices for that one are £15 for Amber members, £20 for Blue members, £25 for non-members. Departure from One Call Stadium on Tuesday is 3:45. Go and see the guys in Sandys tomorrow as well to get yourself a seat on the bus and to pick up a match day program. And make sure you get yourself to One Call Stadium tomorrow to cheer on the Stags. That's all we've got time for tonight. Out go Harry Charles Lee and Corey O'Keefe. In comes Kieran Wallace. James Perch is also back with the Stags after his injury. Will he be involved tomorrow? Will Wallace make his debut? Will Akins start as well? We'll find out at 3 p.m. tomorrow. If you can't get to One Call Stadium, tune in to Mansfield 103.2. Exclusive and extensive updates for you build up from 1 o'clock, and make sure you join us for the Sunday sermon on Sunday to recap it all. This is the show for the fans, by the fans. Why? Because Mansfield matters, and there's still time to fire up the fax machine before Monday. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and let's hope we're record breakers from 5 p.m. tomorrow. Good night.